Welcome back, everyone. This is part 3 of chapter 6. And for this lecture, you need to read pages 278 to 284. Last time we discussed empiricism, the view that the senses are the foundation of knowledge. We know through the five senses, at birth, the mind is blank. Is when the senses begin to interact with the world, that's when we begin to form ideas. So today we're going to discuss rationalism. Rationalism often is a consequence of what's called idealism. There are different forms of idealism. Subjective idealism, for example, says minds, ideas are all that exists. There are no physical objects in the world. There are simply minds and ideas. And there's metaphysical idealism, there's objective idealism, but essentially what they have in common is the belief that mind is primary. Consciousness, the mind came first. In fact, the entire world, the entire cosmos, universe, is a consequence of mind. Or you could say the consciousness of God. Rationalism says, through unaided reason, through reason alone, we can come to know the real world. Reason is the way to know the world, not the senses. That is, knowledge is a priori. Knowledge should be like mathematics and logic. So there's distrust of the five senses because they think the senses kind of lie to us. Even if we begin with the senses, eventually we have to go beyond the five senses if you want to understand what the world is truly like. So again, reason, intellect, mind is the way to know, not the five senses. One of the consequences of this idea is that if we cannot think of something, we cannot know the thing exists. What we can think of, we can at least formulate ideas, arguments, and try to show the real. For example, on this view, we can know God exists, we can know the soul exists, we can know if there's an afterlife, because the human mind can create arguments to try to show those things are true or not true. Okay? So there's trust in reason, faith in reason, not the five senses. So if you have to go all the way back in history, Parmenides is the one who championed this idea. And frankly, Western culture is based on it, this trust in reason. After Parmenism, you have Plato, you have Descartes, and Spinoza that championed this idea. So for the rest of this lecture, we're going to discuss Platonism. Platonism is the claim that the material world is a reflection of eternal ideas or forms. The physical world, the material world, is a reflection of ideas or forms. It's going to take a few minutes to break this down. First, let's say things can be more real than other things. There are different ways and degrees in which things can be said to be more real. Let's take gold, for example, in a gold watch. Notice the gold is more real than the gold watch because the gold watch is made of gold. Gold can exist without a gold watch, but gold watches can't exist without gold. So gold watches depend on gold, but gold doesn't depend on gold watches. Let's take one more. You and your shadow. Your shadow exists because of you and sunlight. So your shadow depends on you. If you don't exist, your shadow can't exist. So you're more real than your shadow. Let's take another one. Water and wave. The ocean water is more real than the wave because the wave depends on the ocean. See, the ocean can exist and then there are no waves in it, but a wave can't exist if the ocean doesn't exist, right? So those three examples are meant to show that some things can be more real than other things. Things can depend on other things for their existence. So what Platonism says is that the physical world, the material world, depends on another world for its existence, a world that is abstract. Take a flower and take number 7. Which one is more real? You can touch the flower, you can touch number 7. You can see and smell and taste the flower, but you can't touch and smell and taste number 7. So which one is more real? Platonism says the number 7 is more real. So the entire physical material world, the world of science and physics, depends on a world that is abstract. Abstract like triangles, like number 7, like pi. Abstract mean those things can't be perceived by the senses. They're beyond space and time. That is, whether or not I am here, you here, number 7 is real. But notice, you can ask where is number 7, where are triangles, where are the equations that science uses to explain the world. They're real, but they're not real like the moon, like the sun, like a tree, like a butterfly. They're abstract. Abstract mean, again, not beyond the senses, transcendent, beyond space and time. So Platonism says the entire physical material world is a reflection of a world that is abstract. Again, abstract like number 7, like triangles, like pi. Therefore, you can't ask where's pi, where's number 7. They're real, but they can't be perceived by the senses. Only the human mind can perceive those things. So essentially, there are two worlds. The physical world that we study, that we know by the 5 senses. This world is changing. It is passing. It is fleeting. It is not eternal. It's in space and time. Then there's another world that is eternal, unchanging, perfect. It's always been there, except it is abstract. The physical world can be perceived by the 5 senses, but this abstract world can be perceived only by the mind. So the same way, water is more real than a wave, gold is more real than a gold watch, you're more real than your shadow. The abstract world is more real than the physical world. This has been a very powerful idea. If you speak to scientists, physicists, and ask them, well, the equations you speak of, the equations for gravity, magnetism, E equal mc squared, why are those things? Are these just ideas in the mind, things we come up with to explain the physical world? Where's pi and 3.14? Where are triangles? Where are those things? Are they just ideas in the human mind? Most mathematicians will tell you no. We discover those things. They're really, really there. They're not just ideas in the mind, they're there. And our minds somehow discover them. So what Platonism says is that yes, numbers like number 3, number 7, triangles, they're not just ideas in the mind. They're really, really, really there. But they can't be perceived by the senses. Again, you can only know them through ideas, through the mind. So true knowledge is the knowledge of these ideas, knowledge of these forms that have always been there. Let me give you an example of what a form or an idea is. Take, for example, the idea of circularity. Circularity. Notice we never see a perfect object in the world. We never see a perfect circle. But we have the idea of perfection. Where does it come from? If we never see anything perfect in the world. So what Platonism says that a perfect circle is an idea. That is, it really exists. I can even say somewhere else. It exists, it's part of reality. So the circles we build in the world are simply a manifestation of this perfect idea of circles. Let's take another one. We see beautiful things, beautiful flowers and women and beaches and houses, but we never see beauty itself. There are things we call good, but we never see goodness itself. There are things we say those things are true, but we don't see the truth itself. So beauty, the good, the truth, they're real. So if there was no beauty, there wouldn't be any beautiful things. The same way if there's no gold, there's no gold watch. If there's no goodness, there can't be good things. If there's no truth, there can't be true things. So beauty, goodness, truth, the example of forms with capital F, or ideas, capital I, they're real just like number 7 is real, just like pi, triangles are real. But again, they can't be perceived through the 5 senses. We have to use the mind to discover those things. This is why in ancient cultures, they really thought of the world differently. The word inspiration, for example, means to breathe. To breathe. In the past, they would never say somebody is a genius. They would say the person has a genius. The word genius means spirit. So they would never say Albert Einstein is a genius. They would say Albert Einstein has a genius. So a genius was supposed to be a companion spirit that you have. So this companion spirit knows the world of forms, the world of ideas. So when we discover something, it's because your companion spirit inspires or breathes into your mind. So this is why when you speak to scientists, mathematicians, okay, where are those ideas coming from when you discover something? Einstein says, for example, the idea of relativity simply came to him. How and where? Ancient people would say, well, Einstein has a spirit, a genius. The spirit knows the world of ideas, the world of forms. So the spirit simply revealed this truth to Albert Einstein. Music, for example, came from the word muse. And the muses, if you recall, were the 9 daughters of Zeus. The muses would inspire people to write poetry, history, and so forth. So ideas Ideas with a capital I, forms with capital F, they're real. Our guardian angels are spirits. They know those things. So when we discover things, it's because the spirit inspires or breathes into our minds. That's why we discover those things. So there are two worlds: the physical, material world of science, that is in space and time. It is changing. Since it is changing, you only have opinions and beliefs. This world depends on a world that is abstract like number 7, like pi, like triangles, but it's real. The physical world can be known through the senses. The abstract world of forms and ideas can only be known through the mind. So, and the physical world depends on this abstract world, the same way a wave depends on water, the same way a gold watch depends on gold. Now, why is this important? Actually, before I get to this, when Socrates was explaining this, the people listening to him, they did not understand. So he decided to tell them a story in order to explain this. And it's a famous story. It's called the allegory of the cave. It goes something like this. Let's say a few people were born and raised in a cave. They've been in the cave all their lives. But they're chained. The way they chain them, they can only look forward. They can't look back. They can't turn their head and look at what is behind them. So they're chained. They've been there in the cave all their lives, and they can only look forward. Behind them, there's a fire. And then there are some objects behind them. And outside, there are a bunch of people walking by, activities taking place. Now, because of the fire, everything that is besides them gets reflected in front of them because there's a wall in front of them. So everything that is behind them because of the fire gets reflected on the wall in front of them. So if there's a table behind them, so the table gets reflected in front of them on the wall. So they see the reflection, but they never see the real table because they can't look back. So over time, since they see reflections only, they come to the conclusion the reflections are reality. The true world is the world of reflection, shadows that they see in front of the wall. Again, they conclude that because they can't look behind them, they don't know those reflections are simply reflections of things behind them. Let's say one day one of them breaks off the chain and he turns around and he sees the real table. He will not know this is the real table because that's the first time he sees the real table. He will still say the reflection is real. This table is not real. In fact, for the first time when he sees the fire, he will be in tears because that's the first time he sees fire. So when he first breaks up the chain, he will still say the reflections are real. But the things behind, he will not say they're real because that's the first time he sees them and he sees the reflections all of his life. Let's say somebody drags him outside into the sunshine. The sunshine means wisdom, liberation, intelligence. And when he sees the sun for the first time, he will be in tears because the sunlight is too bright for his eyes. But if he stays outside for a long time, eventually he would come to the conclusion, I was wrong all my life. The real world is outside the cave. There are activities, there are people, there's the sunlight. And the things I was seeing inside the cave, they're just shadows, reflections. But the real world is outside the cave. So now the person would gain wisdom, enlightenment, liberation. He would know what the truth is. Now let's say he goes back inside the cave, to explain to his friends the reality that he discovered. Because he loves them, he has compassion for them. He wants to open their eyes to it. So if he goes back inside the cave and says, guys, you've been wrong all your lives. The things you call true and beautiful and good, these are not the real things. These are just reflection, shadows, because of the reflection of the light of the fire behind you. The real world is outside the cave. Let's go with me outside the cave so I can show you the real world. Would they believe him? No. Socrates said they would laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh. They would make fun of him. They would say, man, your eyes have gone wrong. You've been outside for too long. The real world is inside the cave. This is the reality. And Socrates says if he insists and insists and insists on enlightening them, try to enlighten them. If he insists telling them this is not true, reality is outside the cave. If they could kill this man, they would kill him. If they could break up their chains too, they would put his hands on him and kill him. He's telling them reality is outside the cave. The real world is outside the cave. What does this story mean? First, you see, it's really hard to teach people new things. If you call something true, good, beautiful all your life, and then all of a sudden, you're faced with the possibility that's not true and good and beautiful, some people will just close their ears, close their mind. It's hard to learn new things, especially when you have to admit, confess you were wrong. I was at FAU one day. I was taking a class on philosophy of religion. Some people believe Jesus, for example, wasn't a real person. Jesus was a mythical figure like Zeus, like Thor. After class, we were outside, and then there's one girl, she strongly believed in Jesus. Then we asked her, well, if you come to the conclusion Jesus wasn't real, Jesus was a mythical figure like Thor, like Zeus, what would you do with your life? She said, I would kill myself. Kill yourself? Yes. Why? Don't you have family members, loved ones, friends, a boyfriend? Yes, but I would kill myself. Why? Because all my life, I believe in Jesus. I build my entire life on Jesus. If I come to realize this is not true, I would kill myself. Now this story sounds like the Matrix. How do you know what you're perceiving is the real world? What if you're just inside a cave? Okay. Nowadays, technology would be the cave. The fact that we spend so much time on our cell phones and computers, which I'm using right now. So the virtual world is not the real world. The real world is the world of the senses, the real physical world. But we spend so much time on Facebook, on social media, watching Netflix. We forget the real world. The real world is outside Facebook, outside Netflix. Right? So the story is meant to explain Platonism. The same way the table on the wall is a reflection of the real table. Likewise, the physical material world, the world of science, of physics, is a reflection of another world, a world that is abstract. Why is this story important? It's important, first of all, for politics. Plato said famously, unless philosophers become kings, unless kings become philosophers, there will never be any peace in the world. There can't be peace. The man who broke his chains, who went outside the cave, who became enlightened, when he came back, we should make him king. He should be the president because he knows he has wisdom. He knows the things we're fighting for inside the cave, they're reflections, they're shadows, images, they're not the real world. So this person, we should make him king. So the person with wisdom, we should make him king. Right? So this is the idea of a philosopher king, somebody with power, somebody with wisdom. If you combine power and wisdom, then we have a philosopher king. And we will see soon why, for example, Plato thought democracy was the worst form of government. So, you need to combine power and wisdom. And the person that can do that, the person that gain enlightenment, liberation, wisdom, we should make him king. If not, there can't be peace because we're fighting for the wrong things. We're killing people over things inside a cave, shadows and reflections. This is also important for education. Education doesn't mean memorizing ideas. It doesn't mean agreeing with what the professor says. Education must open your eyes to come to see the truth for yourself. This also introduce a bias against our own bodies. If there are two worlds, the physical and material world depends on an abstract world. So the abstract world of ideas or forms are more real. So which one is more important? Likewise, human body, a human being has a soul and a body. The body is material, the body is changing and passing and fleeting, the body is going to die, and the soul is everlasting. Which one is more important? So this idea introduced back then in Greek culture, a bias against physical reality, a bias against our own bodies. And when the Christian religion came along back then, Christianity embraced this idea. The church fathers, they combined the Bible and Greek philosophy. And this bias against our own bodies was picked up by the church. If you want to know why the priests in the Catholic Church can't get married, it's partially because of this. Because again, you have a soul, you have a body. The soul is more important than the body. The soul is eternal. The soul will never die. The body will die. Therefore, instead of pleasing your body, food, drinking, sex, you should take care of your soul instead. So again, that's one of the reasons until today, if you're a priest in the Catholic Church in the Western world, you can't get married. Right? Lastly, how do you move from the physical world to the abstract world? Since there are two worlds, how do you know the real world, abstract world? Mathematics is the first way. Plato thought there was a mathematical equation for everything. So you have to study mathematics. He had a school back then, and at the entrance of a school, there was a sign that says, if you don't study geometry, don't enter into my school. So mathematics is the key. Number two, innate ideas. They thought, in fact, some of us today still believe that human beings are born with ideas. Since the body dies, the soul doesn't die. They believe in incarnation back then. So the soul that is in me existed before this body. So this means the soul already knows everything. The soul already knows the truth. All ideas, the soul already knows them. At birth, when the soul entered my body, the soul forgot its knowledge. You already know all things. You simply forget them. So learning is simply recollection. Learning means to remember what you already knew. So if you have a great teacher, the teacher will never give you any answer to any question. The teacher will simply ask you the correct questions so you could discover for yourself. This means you know things, you don't know that you know them. So when you learn anything, you're simply remembering what you knew because your soul is eternal, everlasting. Your soul already knows all things. So it's simply a matter of making what is unconscious conscious. 3, this is where the idea of platonic love came from. Platonic love. Platonic love doesn't involve any touching, any kissing, any sex. It's the love of the soul. It's the love of the spirit of the person. It's friendship with the spirit, friendship with the soul of the person. So when you love someone, it's not really the physical beauty of the person that you love, even though you may have started with it. What you love is beauty itself. The form, the truth, the idea of beauty manifests itself in the person. That's what you truly love. So when you look into the eyes of the person that you love, it's not simply the eyes, not simply the physical body that you love. There's something everlasting, there's something eternal in the eyes of this person. So the true, the good, the beautiful manifest themselves in the physical body of the person. This is what you are attracted to. So even though the love may have started with physical beauty and attraction, eventually the love must grow and grow and grow for you to fall in love with eternal beauty, eternal goodness, eternal truth. So that's what you should love. So physical love can actually bring you to an understanding of everlasting love, everlasting truth, everlasting beauty. Beauty, truth, the good, they're real, but again, real like number 7. They're not just ideas in the mind, they're real. And when the Christian religion came along, they make a big distinction. They simply say, yes, beauty is real, truth is real, goodness is real, but they're not just floating out there in existence. They're real because they're ideas in the mind of God. Plato did not say God. He didn't say beauty, truth, goodness, pi, triangles exist in the mind of God. They're simply eternal realities. They're just there. So when Christians come along and say, well, it doesn't make sense to say ideas exist without a mind. If there's beauty, truth, goodness, they must exist in the mind, and they concluded they existed in the mind of God. So sometime when we go to church, what they're teaching us is actually some philosophy. Because again, the church fathers, they combine Greek philosophy and the Bible. Plato said, the good is the highest form. The good is the highest form. The world would not exist if the good does not exist. Everything, existence comes from the good. So again, when Christianity came along and said, yes, the good is real, but the good is in the mind of God, existence came out of the mind of God. Okay. So to conclude, Platonism says the physical material world is a reflection of an abstract world. This world is eternal. The same way gold is more real than a gold watch, water is more real than a wave, you're more real than a shadow. The abstract physical world is real, but it's real like pi is real. It's real like number 7 is real. We have to use the senses to perceive the physical world. The physical world is passing, it's fleeting. There are simply beliefs, opinions there. There's no truth. There's no knowledge here. The abstract world is the more real world. And to know is to know the abstract world. Right? Thank you for watching.